Welcome to Surviving as a Civilian. This podcast tells the stories of veterans, emergency service workers, and first responders. These stories help understand how our guests have gone through significant traumatic incidents and how they dealt with it afterwards. Content warning, language, and descriptions of events may be sensitive to some listeners. Welcome to Surviving as a Civilian. I am Scott, here with my friend Jimmy. Jimmy, how are you?
Great, Scott. Good to be with you. Thank you.
Jimmy, thanks for taking the time to do this. I know it was a bit of an obstacle, but we're here right now. Let's just dive into it. So, growing up, after you got out of high school, what did you do?
Well, I went to college for a short stint and then became a parent and had to go right into the working force. So I worked a lot of odd jobs until I got really old enough. And then my older brother, William, became a policeman, and he kind of got me interested into it. And so I started off getting into like security work. And then when I finally was of age, which had to be 21, I finally found a position where I could get hired, and I was hired on as a police officer in St. Peters, Missouri.
What was that experience like, being a police officer?
Well, I had the opportunity to ride with my brother, and the city that he was in at the time was a smaller municipality in St. Louis County. And so it was kind of, I rode midnight shifts with him from time to time, and it was kind of fun. It was exciting because you never knew what was going to happen, and you kind of always felt that danger. Things were different. This was back in 79 or like 80s. I was hired on in 1981, and the town that I was in, St. Peters, was still a smaller town. And you always had different things. I have, a major interstate running through our town, and then we had another highway running through our town. So you always had different things, that could jump off the highway.
What do you mean?
And
Jimmy, what do you mean jump off the highway?
Well, we had, so the way we're St. Peters is, we're outside of the city limits of St. Louis. So you have St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and then us. And you literally had people that traveled the corridor from the west to the east. And we had a lot of people from the city that would come, in the county, that would come out and steal from you. You literally had, to give an example here, I'd been a policeman for probably 4 or 5 years, and we had some guys who had escaped from prison or from jail and abducted a female from another state and ended up in one of our hotels right off the interstate. And the girl was able to get away from them in the early morning hours and called the police to say, "Come help me." And then next thing you know, we're kicking in a door to arrest these guys.
So, Jimmy, you were on that call?
Yes.
So this was, you said, how far into your career as a police officer was this?
Probably I think I was in maybe my fourth, fifth year. Because I've been on midnights, and then finally came to day shift. And as one of your other guests, was his name Adams?
Yes.
Yes, he was talking about you don't want to go to days because it's like the boring year-round command, and I thought for sure I wanted the excitement, but I had to switch because my family wanted to change a pace and see me during the daylight hours.
So, Jimmy, before that incident with the before the 2 year or 3 years, what was one of the craziest things you ever seen?
Mm.
First couple of years on the force.
Well, we probably nothing as crazy as that. St. Peter's went from like the city literally exploded in growth. We probably went from like 14,000 and up to like 50,000 people living in the city. It was one of the fastest growing towns. They're putting in major streets, they're expanding, and you saw so much. They end up putting a major mall in our city, and the main street just exploded with businesses growing. So you'd see, your disturbances, family disputes. You of course you'd have your other little stealings, but at that time, that was probably one of the first major things that you saw. That, hey, I live in I'm working in a good middle to upper middle class city, but there's things that come through here, so you just can't think that I live in a simple town and everything's good. Bad people do come through.
That's crazy. So that was your first significant incident, right?
Yes.
What did so after that was done, right? Well, so how did it end up?
Well, we ended up capturing the two guys and got the girl back to her family, and everything turned out well. But these guys, the matter of fact, there was a little bit of a chase because we were right by one of their rooms, and one guy got down the stairwell, but we had the perimeter set up and captured that guy.
Man.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing about police work, and I do have to say it was one of those jobs, and I really did. I did it for 30 years, and I truly enjoyed my job. It was always something going on, and my boss liked me because I was full of piss and vinegar and was wanting to go out, and I wanted to go find the bad guys. I just didn't want to hear the call. You had the older guys that were like, they were making fun of you because I was the only one in the department at the time that was wearing a vest. Vests were coming, bulletproof vests were coming of age, and I was probably the only one wearing one at the time. And matter of fact, I got stuck on point when we had to go kick the room because I was the only one who had a vest on.
So what was it like the rest of your career?
Well, I did the patrolman. I got interested into doing ID work, doing crime scenes. So they sent me to school to learn how to process crime scenes. I had to go to another school for, photography. And it's always a constant learning. You're always going to different classes to keep up with your post certifications so you could go to motorcycle gangs, a variety of different schools that you could go to when they became available. I became got on the SWAT team when we developed. You start seeing a need for in the early '80s to mid '80s to hey, we need the specialized tactical teams, and the local FBI office put on a SWAT school for us, and we had a small SWAT team, and there was other agencies in our county that had smaller SWAT teams too. Of course, the county team was a lot larger, but we always would train together with them because it wasn't. And here's another prime example of here you're in a growing city. You think you're generally pretty safe, and I think it was right before. It was like the weekend before Memorial Day or like Labor. It was like spring or something, but they had a call, and this is what's really crazy. A week before this armed robbery, and it was a armored car robbery. A week before it happened, we get a bomb call on the other side of town. And we get up there, and sure enough, yep, there's a bomb in this car. And then a week later, they call in you get another bomb threat. Well, everybody's like, well, we all want to go up there. And one of our guys had even been approached by one of the bad guys, we believe, saying he was trying to get him away because he was only like a block away from where this robbery happened. And the guy was trying to tell him, like, hey, there's something going on further down the road. But this was probably one of the highly more well orchestrated robberies. So everybody wants to go down south to see where the bomb is. And in the meantime, the armored car pulls up. These guys jump out of a van that's parked right in handicap, overtake the driver and the other guard. They drive the armored car a block over by the hospital, empty it into another stolen car. They drive that, dump that car in an apartment complex a couple miles away, and then they're off. These guys had body armor, automatic weapons.
For how much money did they walk away with, Jimmy?
Well, if it would have been a week later, they would have probably had doubled their money because it would have been a big holiday. But they literally cleaned out the armored car. I don't know an exact amount, but so come the holiday weekend, we now have a task force following armored cars around, thinking that it was going to get robbed again. But these guys got a clean getaway. And to be honest, I'm not sure if the FBI ever solved that or not, but these guys were well orchestrated.
That's scary, huh?
Yes. And like I said, in the mid '80s, you're like, we're still carrying revolvers,
right?
And shotguns. We weren't even prepared for somebody who had automatic weapons and were well orchestrated and wearing body armor.
So you did 31 years, you said, in the
right at 30 years.
Okay, right at 30 years, right? So you're probably pretty young at this point, right?
Right.
And at that point, you decided to what?
I was a detective at the time, and once again, my brother's influencing me. Thank you. And he goes, "Hey, there's a job opportunity as a law enforcement professional, and you will be embedded with the military, and you bring the law enforcement spin, and you'll end up being deployed with either an Army or a Marine unit, and you'll be assisting them." So they had several different things. If you were like a border patrol officer, they would put you like on the border dealing, some positions you were training your, whether it was Afghan or Iraqi. The position that I got into was a battalion. I was embedded with the Army, so I was an Army asset or battalion asset. So I helped the command. I worked with command staff but I also worked with the soldiers.
So what was your job specifically? What was the position description?
Well, the description is, I guess it was like several pages long, which you could do, and you go through about 11-day orientation to kind of get up to speed, kind of go through their, they want to make sure you're physically able to go do this job, because now I'm 51. I think it was 50 or 51. But what they're telling you is you need to use your A-type personality and work your way in.
Hold on, Jimmy. I got to pause you for a second. So at this point, you were 51. Were you questioning the decision you just made? Were you like, at this point, going through this indoctrination type stuff, were you like, what the fuck am I doing here?
I think that came later, but I was so excited because I absolutely love police work. When you're a detective, you're always you're generally lead on whatever crime you're working. You're not the patrolman. I'm out there, trying to go out and arrest someone because I have the evidence to go grab people up, so you're usually lead on whatever exciting is going to be happening. But with this, I'm like, if I'm going to retire, I want to retire and I want to do something over the top. I just don't want to retire and go, I'm going to go serve papers or I'm going to do some other odd job. I want to, and again, I'm still young. I'm 50, 51. I want to do something over the top because everybody thought I was going to, die there because I love my job. I'm the guy who's still, even at 50, I'm out there, want to go kick doors and be involved in stuff. I wasn't kicking back and want to go like, yeah, you guys go do the work and I'll just sit here.
Right. So at what point did you kind of question the decision you made to go help us out?
Probably the first time I was going to go out on I was overseas. Then then you're realizing like, holy shit, yeah, this is the real deal. We were in Afghanistan, southern Afghanistan. We were in Zari district, southern Afghanistan, and we were in Fob Wilson at the time, and it was a smaller Canadian-owned, and we were getting anytime you drove out the front gate, they were kicking our ass because they had free reign in as you drive up and down the main 2-lane highway, they would just open up and fire on you. Or if you guys were going to their little combat outpost, they would just light you up. And the previous unit had the same thing happen to them, and they were not going out as much. So we had a lot of work ahead of us. So I knew that the first time I got in a vehicle to go down the road, you had the opportunity of getting lit up and attacked. And so that's when I think reality set in that, yeah, hey, this year. But I was very excited. I felt very privileged as a, civilian to be embedded with the Army, and I was with the 101st. So I felt very privileged to be serving with all these, young men and women.
That's got to be exciting at that point. So you're 51 or a little bit, and you're out here walking with these young dudes just in Was your Iraq or Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Yeah. So you're in Afghanistan with these guys. Just it's got to be an amazing feeling, huh?
Yeah, it was. And again, my father was in the Air Force. He was in Vietnam. He was a airplane mechanic. He was a sheet metalist. He repaired the airplanes. Unfortunately, during his year tour, he was killed in an accident. So I lost my dad in 1966, and so my brother and I were military brats growing up. So I didn't have the drive or the interest at the time to go into the military right out of high school. I became a parent, so now I'm raising children, and so I had to start working. Where a lot of guys are, hey, I'm out of high school, I want to go join the military. So I was a little behind.
All right, so how many times have you been to Afghanistan?
One time, but I extended. So when I started this job in November of 2009, they embedded us with the 101st. The 101st, this is going to be a surge in Afghanistan with military units, so like the complete 101st unit deployed. And so I had 6 months of training with them before we even deployed. So May of 2010, I deployed and spent a full year with the 101st. And then when they left, I extended and did another 6 months with 10th Mountain.
And that's where we met, huh?
Yes.
So this kind of been the focal point of this. Like, this is how we started this podcast. But were you around when the McKinney stuff happened?
When Wills, yes.
Do you want to share your side, what it looks like from somebody who's never actually been in the Army but is helping the Army?
Yes. It was, and this was one of the when 10th Mountain came in. I had already spent a full year boots on the ground, and I was very fortunate. My commanders felt comfortable with me, and so did the units. And again, the thing with the military is that, hey, they were happy to see me, but it was going to go. You have to prove yourself. It's just not like, hey, you're there, we'll go stick you out on a patrol. And they, especially first sergeants, your sergeants, they want to, I didn't want to be. I did not want to be that, like, oh crap, we got, Jimmy's. My nickname was Jimmy K. I got a nickname by one of the specialists before I deployed, and they always called me Jimmy K because he asked me one day, like, what's your middle name? I go, it's K for Kenneth. And hey, Jimmy K. Well, because I could have a little bit of room to do things that the normal soldier couldn't, my nameplate said Jimmy K on it. I don't think anybody really knew what my last name was because I never wore it on my uniform. But I'd been boots on the ground. I knew most of the bad guys, who they were. I knew the nooks and crannies in the area. I pushed out to all the different combat outposts throughout our area of operation. So when 10th Mountain came in, I was, I guess, an experienced soldier at the time for them. And like I said, I wore a uniform, carried a weapon. I looked just like the rest of the soldiers, except I was older. And my job was to deal with detainees. I dealt with evidence collection off the battlefield. So, and like I said earlier, my A-type personality, you have to learn how to get along with everybody and expand your role in what you're doing. So some of the stuff that was brought to me was really stuff that the sappers or EOD guys, because it was bomb related. And I had to develop a relationship with them to show them that, hey, soldiers are bringing me stuff. I'm not telling anybody to collect this, but now that I know this is in your lane, let me know what I can do to help you. And to get it so that it's getting processed properly, because that's where we found a lot of physical evidence, fingerprints.
On the tape and stuff, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. On the tape, we were getting DNA because they didn't have wire cutters. They were just chewing on stuff to strip wires with. It was absolutely amazing what you could. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing what they were. It's using your imagination. How can I identify people who are making this stuff besides fingerprints? Or we weren't really getting shoe prints, but doing fingerprints to help identify people. You would enroll them into the
a
system called correct. Yeah. But so I had already, and I'll digress 1 second before I get into Wills. I had already had one major event happen with me. I'd been shot at, they call it troops in contact. I'd been in many of those already. And but one of my major events with the 101st was a suicide bomber on a motorcycle. And this was like November 1st. These guys were, we had two patrols out. One patrol snatches up a guy who is obviously following them, spotting. He's calling on the phone. He's got Taliban tattoos. He's got fake ID. So they brought him into the combat outpost, and I was interviewing him right inside the front gate when about an hour or so later, another patrol was coming in, and they were confronted by a guy on a motorcycle. So the way this combat outpost was set up was it's kind of on a hill right next to the 2-lane highway, and then when you went on your patrol, you went down the steep embankment like an overpass. It's really steep like that, and you were into the fields and right there into the village.
Okay.
So these guys were coming back from the patrol. So they're at the bottom of this hill by fields in a very exposed area when the guy on the motorcycle showed up. Sergeant Pereira stops the guy. He was the team leader and lead guy, and stops this guy on the motorcycle because, hey, you're not going to go through our patrol. You stay right here. We're going up the hill. And the guy did everything. Pereira shook him down, and the guy was very cooperative, got off the motorcycle, and Pereira, motioned for him to do that. And so most of the patrol was going up the hill, and then Pereira was going up the hill when the guy got back on the bike, and the bomb wasn't on him, it was on the bike, and blew up. So we hear this massive explosion that rocks everything, and someone comes running in saying, hey, they need medical, they need help with casualties. So myself and another soldier literally drive out the front gate with our helmets on, no body armor, and our rifles, and we were in one of those little John Deere Gators. So we drive out to, we figure we can load casualties on there. And I end up going down the embankment to start helping with casualties. And that's one of those moments when you're like, my knees go weak because you're like, what? I'm seeing parts. And what I didn't realize it was a motorcycle, but I just see parts. I'm thinking, like, how did they put the IED right out front? And, we have a tower right here. How did they do this? And so I'm thinking that there was an IED. I didn't realize it was a motorcycle that blew up. Mm. And, your knees go weak thinking like, oh, my God, I'm going to step on something too, because there's always more than one. But at that point, I'm like, these guys it's that policeman in you. They need help. I'm going. And so I started helping with casualties, and Pereira was instrumental in helping along with other soldiers, gathering up, because we had the sergeant was wounded. We had we ended up with 2 killed in actions, and one was Andrew Meary. He was the radio operator. He was killed instantly, and I just remember seeing him, thinking like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not sure who that is, but I know he is dead." But I started with another casualty. I really thought that this particular soldier, his name was Jonathan Curtis, and I really thought he was going to make it. And because he was still showing signs. Unfortunately, he died from his wounds. But Pereira ended up having to, we were exposed. This opened up a huge firefight started. It was like one of those complex ambush. And they attacked another one of our combat outposts, a forward operating.
Jimmy, so I got to ask several questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So leading up to this incident you're talking about right now, did any of your police training help you with that, or was this like something you had to instinctually do?
I think it's the policeman in you to, when something happening, you go. And I know it wasn't a good decision, to be going out there without any body armor on, but I would have had to run up the hill to go get it. It was like way too far. It was just that instinct of, let's just get and go and start helping with casualties. And then, like I said, then the gunfire erupted, and we're on a hill, and you can hear rounds buzzing by you. And I don't know how none of us got hit, because we were all exposed at, on this hillside and even at the bottom.
But Jimmy, I'm asking though, like your decision to run out there and go without body armor, was that something you always kind of wanted to do, or did your police training? I don't know.
It is. It's like I said. It's not that I want to do it or like, hey, this is going to be cool. This was all instinct, and I think what was the saving grace for me, because I didn't go to boot camp, but I had a lot of other tactical experience, which helped me. Um, it was. It was. I found that with me is that if I focus on not being afraid, you're afraid, but you go and you rely on your instinct, your training, what to do. That's what's going to keep you focused and not panicking. And that's what, to me, saved me. I'm focused on, okay, now I'm out there. What can I do to help with the casualties? We're taking fire. Now we got to take cover. I literally had to take off Jonathan Curtis. His vest was damaged, but his load-bearing vest was still intact. Most of it was. So I literally took his load-bearing vest with ammunition and gear on it, and I put that on so that I would have extra ammunition, because we literally got stuck out there till we could, evacuate the last man off the field, which was Andrew Meary, because we literally got pinned down for a while till we had enough forces and coverage overhead to be able to get him out of there.
What are your thoughts when this is all done? This incident, not what the next one you're going to talk about, but what are your thoughts as you start to decompress? Are you like, fuck this, what did I sign up for? Or are you like, I don't know.
Well, let's put it this way. So one soldier earned a Silver Star, another earned Pereira earned the second highest award for his valor, the Distinguished Service Cross. When you see firsthand the valor of these young men, I always say, my life was kind of defined by this moment, because Pereira yelled out in the middle of all this, because Pereira was wounded himself. He had shrapnel in his leg and he had a punctured lung. But he came back, and he was literally by the front gate trying to get someone to change his radio frequency, and he literally went back down the hill to help out. But when you see the valor of these guys, that they don't hesitate, and they're there to not leave a man behind. But Pereira yelled out in the middle of this, hey, we're not leaving without Meary. That was his radio operator. We're not leaving without Meary. No man left behind. And that was that rally thing for me, that I was so motivated. I wasn't afraid anymore. I just knew I was focused on what I had to do and helping out. And but when you see that valor, you're just very inspired by these young soldiers who will do anything and everything to band together and fight and make sure that we keep all of our guys, recover all of our people, and get them back into the base, no matter what it takes. And it's very inspiring. It was very motivating, and it was very defining, like I said, to see the valor and the fortitude that these young guys have. And that's the thing that the normal civilian never sees. And to me, I'm privileged to be able to be here with these guys, even though it's in a shitstorm. It's a privilege to be here and see this stuff and experience this stuff that the normal civilian never gets to experience.
So you went right from the 101st to us, the 10th Mountain, right?
Correct.
Didn't take a break.
No.
Stayed there.
I had tears in my eyes when they left, because it was like, I've been with these guys a year and a half. These are my family. And I think that was another moment where I was like, I just extended. Like, holy shit. But 10th Mountain was just, became another part of my family. they brought me into their family, and it was a great group because 10th Mountain realized I had a lot of experience and worked me harder. They just didn't push me out on patrols. They pushed me out on every named operation, to help out.
So you were, how long were you there before we showed up?
I was there for a year.
Okay, so you've already seen it, you already done it, you had a lot of experience going on. Where did 10th Mountain mess up that you wish you would have been able to get across to them that you should probably change this up?
It wasn't 10th Mountain because I appreciated 10th Mountain because they were willing to use me more and push my experience and push me as a person to do more. Because I learned that now I'm dealing with more people, the intel people. I'm dealing with command staff. I'm trying to share any information that I have with other people to make sure that that information is getting passed around. So, you don't have that lagging point where, wow, I wish we would have known this. Well, whether it was a new trend in how they're planting bombs or any intel that you get off of a detainee, because we're processing their cell phones. We're trying to see who their contacts are, who they've been calling. We're linking them with other people. And with the 101st, we are gathering all that information. And now with 10th Mountain, I'm seeing everything pay off that the 101st did. Now everything is really starting to link up. They're grabbing up more high value targets in the area. They're identifying me either by fingerprints or DNA. So 10th Mountain is working me harder, and it's just the rules of engagement were the most frustrating things to me over there. Where, you always were working with your Afghan partners. And, I would throw out suggestions like, why don't we go through a village, one of the smaller ones that we aren't in a lot, but we leave behind a small kill team. And you couldn't even do that because you had to have your Afghan partner with you. And, it was like different things that would make sense to do because the Taliban were going to come in and, you would have an opportunity maybe then to eliminate or capture some of these people. You couldn't do things, The guy would have his rifle and you'd see him shooting at you and they'd be watching him on camera, and the guy would put it away and cover it up, with his shawl and nope, you can't do anything with that guy because he's not a combatant anymore. I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
Right.
Those changed a little bit. Then it changed as long as you had that positive identification. That's the guy that was shooting at you. Yeah, you could engage him. But that was the most frustrating things with some of the rules of engagement that really hampered our guys from being as effective.
So anything else you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, no. So like with Will McKinney, when that operation kicked off, I was usually towards the back of the group, the patrol. My battle buddy was generally one of either a sapper or the EOD guys. And so when everything kicked off, they land you at dark 30 in the middle of the night, and then you walk into the outskirts of the village, and then and they start. And I think this particular place was where they thought a Taliban government was set up, that they had a little prison over there too. And so we came in through to clear that. And I'm staged in a little compound, and it's when you hear one explosion go off and someone got hurt, and then another one shortly after that goes off, it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of IEDs out here. And and like I said, I had been on other operations with Will. I knew Will, Sean White, Kyle Vickers, some of the other EOD guys. Very, so I know that this is people I know, and I guess that's the when you know somebody personally that get injured, that affects you, and you get frustrated, and matter of fact, I ended up with Will McKinney's. They generally aren't going to take all your gear and toss it in the helicopter with you. You're getting stripped down, so we have to share the load of whatever the person's gear is left behind. And I know I ended up with Will McKinney's grenade launcher, and I ended up with another soldier's. What was it? It was his the saw machine gun, because the sergeant was like trying to strap it across his little day pack, and I'm like, I got a full size rucksack. I'm on, like, just stick it in mine. It'll fit in my rucksack better than it is yours. And but yeah, I think that was such an eye opener. And then when I saw. From my perspective, I was in another compound. I just was watching the explosions, and they had already had one detainee that they had snatched up, some guy who's coming through the spot to see what was going on. And but to see and to hear what Will went through, and it was very frustrating. Matter of fact, at the end of the operation, we had cleared through, and I was wanting to stay. I was telling the captain, like, let's not go. We found a major compound. I had at least time enough to go through, and they were literally, it was an IED factory, if you want to call it. It was a compound where they were set there and made pressure plates, put together all their shrapnel, parts and different explosives that they were using. And it was all in this compound. And I'm like, let's stay and wait for them to come back home. We even found extra weapons, rifles. And I was like, let's, load-bearing vests. I was like, I wanted to stay. I didn't want to call it quits. At the end of the day, I wanted to stay and fight some more. But I don't make those decisions. And that was one of those that was very frustrating. I wanted to stay and fight more and lay in wait and engage the combatant. But
so, Jimmy, how long were you over there total that time?
I was maybe like halfway through. Yeah, I was probably about halfway through.
So total time at that point, you did 2 years, or?
Oh, I was probably halfway through, maybe 3 months into
the second 6 months, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that was it with us, the 10th Mountain. That was your last time, or?
No, I was on another operation when Lieutenant Casper stepped on an IED, and our group had just moved into another compound, and then the group that was already there was now pushing out. This is after we'd been on scene for a couple of days, and they were pushing out to get extracted. And when he stepped on an IED, again, it's that first responder. They're going like, we need the medical kit. They need the rucksack that has all the medical gear in it with a carrier on it. We need to take that out to them. And I was still had all my gear on. I hadn't stripped off yet. And I'm like, I'll do it. And because otherwise someone would have had to put their vest on, get the right, their helmet, and which is taking time. And I said, I'll do it. So again, it's another one of those moments your legs feel a little weak as you're zigzagging, but the guys had set it up, for me a safe route to go out to them because they were a couple 100 yards away, and to take the medical kit out there. But again, it's that kind of first responder, like, I'll do it. And when again you're seeing him, he lost the lower part of his leg and foot to an IED.
So you, at the end of that deployment, you came back to the States, correct?
Correct.
All right. So did you go back after that?
No.
Okay, Jimmy.
I've been.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So what does, as a contractor, seeing all the stuff you've seen, what does the military or the service you work for do to you when you leave that? Like for the military, I'm saying we go through a whole 3-week thing. We got to talk to people, blah, blah, blah. What happens to a contractor when you go through that kind of stuff?
Really, nothing. I was smart enough to talk to the chaplain and go, what do you guys do when you are transitioning? And he kind of gave me some advice.
But Jimmy, so I want to put it in perspective. So you did 30 years in the police force, right?
Correct.
And then you did a couple of years with the military, right?
Correct.
So you went through doing all the stuff you did in the police, and then seeing this horrible 2 years you did with the military, and nobody was like, "Hey, this is what we're going to give you for doing this contract job." You got nothing?
Yeah, nothing. Just the honor of serving with these guys. It was. I think that's more than anything that I'll ever need is the pride and the honor of doing this. And Scott, I can't say it hard enough or loud enough, and hopefully it shows the people around me, because I'm always willing to tell their stories, that what these guys do and what they went through. And I came home suffering from some of the same stuff that they went through. And my poor wife, God bless her, she was the one who I went to after 30 years of law enforcement. Like, hey, honey, I got this great idea. I want to retire and go to Afghanistan and serve with the military. And she's going like, if that's what you want to do, you've worked, you're a police officer, you worked all these odd jobs to raise our kids and put them through college. And if that's what you want to do, it's your time. You deserve it. And, but no, it's the honor that I know that I served with these young men and women. And, not every civilian, and I really do. That's the time when I'm like, everybody should do this. You should go, you're going to have a whole new opinion of what, you're not going to kneel during the national anthem. You're going to stand there very proudly, and you're not going to take a knee. But I had to learn, since I didn't go through any transition. I had to, and my wife had a difficult time in keeping me in check with my anger, my wanting to be, reclusive. If you were in uniform, I was drawn to you because I wanted to talk to you. I knew I could relate to you and you could relate to me. But I truly did. I hated civilians. My first time I came home on leave, I just remember I hate you people. You're in your own little bubble. You don't know what I just left. And you're, you could just give 3 shits less. There's no respect there. And I truly did. I hated civilians, and I'm a civilian.
So you didn't go back after that whole thing?
No, I had literally been gone from my family for 2 years, except for coming home on leave a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And I had my children were all adults. They became police officers, and I'm very proud of them for being very successful and getting into law enforcement. And but I had grandchildren now, and I had two at the time. One, Maddie, was old enough. She was 10 at the time, so she was old enough to kind of understand what I was doing. Izzy was, 2 or 3 at the time, and she didn't. But after coming home, I'm like, I thought I would do the contractor life, in the rest of my retirement. But it was like I would be leaving my grandkids, and then we started having more grandkids, and it was like, it's not worth it to go be a contractor's life and be in some other foreign country or away from your family for long periods of time. It was just time to find another job and career. And I did stuff with security details. We had the Ferguson riots here that went off and on through different periods of time. And I was a contractor, executive protection for the news agencies. So, I got firsthand experience of coming back to that stuff. And it was like, you people are just idiots. You're just rioting to be damaging and doing stuff. You don't have a cause here. So, again, that's another thing that just became even more frustrating for me, to see that type of shit going on, and them burning buildings and cars and destroying stuff. When if you really want to make change, that's not how you do it. You don't burn down some poor person's business for no reason.
So Jimmy, what do you do now? Today.
I work for a trucking company. I'm a warehouse supervisor, logistics, anything that comes and goes out of the warehouse.
Jimmy, so why don't you retire? I feel like you based on what you said, like you're complete kind of what you want to do with law enforcement, military stuff, right? So why don't you just chill and start catching some trout?
I probably will soon. I don't know. I'm 62 now, and I guess I'm still in good physical shape, and I enjoy working. I can't sit idle. But yeah, I'll get there, and I enjoy still getting out there and working, and but I guess somewhere along the line, I guess I'm on my third career now, but it's folks like yourself who have a great podcast that I can listen to. I can still relate and hear good stories. It's your stuff with your different podcasts with some of the different people I found real interesting. When you hear people what they go through afterwards, and I always find that I'll learn. When my wife tells me you're doing this, and that doesn't look pretty and it doesn't look good, and you need to stop it, I might fight it a little bit, but I realize she's correct. I can't be inappropriate on wearing something really military, to my granddaughter's basketball game. I have to. You have to correct those things, and I think that's the hardest thing for us, is that it's your bad attitude is sucking, but you have to change that. And my wife has always kept me in check on that, and sometimes I'm a little slow in reacting, but I realize, she is correct, and you have to do that. You have to recognize I'm being reclusive, and I got to stop that. I've got to engage in with people around me. That's the part to me that helps you become a better person, because you're recognizing it's like I'm an alcoholic. Okay, I can't drink. It's that first step of saying, yep, my name's Jimmy K, and I've got this problem, and now I'm taking the steps to resolve it. And it's getting rid of that I don't give a shit attitude is the thing that I think is the that drowns us and sends us in that downward spiral. And it's, hey, I'm not going to be that person who, I am going to control my anger. I am going to engage in people and start moving forward. I still tend to cling to my memories of working with these guys, but I think it's because of I'm just so proud to have served with these guys. I still want to stay connected. It's good to see how they're doing, but I still have room for improvement myself.
That's very good you came to that at this point, with your life.
Yeah, and I do. Like I said, there's guys that you've talked to on your podcast that I've listened to, and I'm like, you know what? He's right. It's like that's a good a good suggestion, and I've got to do it. Or I got to change my thinking a little bit to do something positive, because at my age, it's like when you're younger, you have that drive. Oh, I want to do this now. I want to do this now. Well, I'm kind of at the end of my career, but it's still like I can still enjoy life. I can still be a person that can engage and enjoy life, and that's the thing that you have to realize. There's still so many good things out there, and it hurts me so much when we lose a soldier out there. And like you said, if you can pick up that phone in the middle of the night and talk to that guy, or when you see their post that it's like this guy's sucking, is reaching out to him, giving them that little bit of encouragement, or stay in contact with them. I think that might help that soldier or that Marine to keep in the fight.
Jimmy,
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. I'm glad we got a chance to do this again.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough either, Scott, for you asking me to do this, and everything that you do with your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jimmy, just so you know, I'm not that far away from you.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Let's figure something out, right?
That's right, buddy. We'll have to do that.
All right, Jimmy, we'll talk.
Are you down in Lindenwood?
Yeah, big time.
Well, I'm going to have to come see you. I got some good memories of being in Lindenwood, too, so.
All right, come see you. You're not that far away.
Yeah.
We'll talk, Jimmy.
Scott, thank you again. I can't appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode. Getting the message out about suicide prevention is a team effort. We need people to be brave enough to tell their stories. We need supporters to care enough to spread the word. If you have a story you want to share, please email us at survivingasacivilian.casting@gmail.com. And if you want to help share this project, like and subscribe to Surviving as a Civilian on Instagram and Facebook. The most important thing Andrew and I want to get across is that if you need help, get help. And if you can give help, please do it. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is at 1-800-273-8255. Until next time.